Howdy, welcome back to the Addicted Motors YouTube channel. My name is Troy, and in this video, I'm going to tell you why I hate my Land Rover Discovery 2. Now, obviously, hate is a bit of a strong word, but it does kind of sum up the relationship I have with these vehicles. Now, if you're following this along with this channel or listen to the podcast, check it out on Spotify, you will see that I bought this sight unseen from an auto auction in El Paso, Texas? El Paso, is it El Paso? New Mexico, who knows? Came from the Southwest. And the problem with this truck was that when it showed up, it wasn't bad. Now, the issue with it not being bad is my overwhelming urge to then come up with a reason to keep it. Again, I've got 3 or 4 other Land Rovers that suck my time, money, and resources away. And the thing I needed the least was yet another one to add to the stable. And that's where things started to go a bit south with this project. I started to like it. Now, historically, I'm not a D2 guy. And if you've followed the channel, you'll see I own 2 D1s and now currently 3 Classics. And they're all have very similar architecture from the engine size to similar parts. So it makes the upkeep of those particular vehicles, I wouldn't say fairly simple, but I'm very familiar with the platform and it can interchange parts and pieces around, and it makes my life as the person that's going to maintain these trucks a little bit easier. So to start the journey by accepting a new member of the family into the club or the stable, wasn't something that I was ready to do. And like I said, unfortunately, when it showed up, it wasn't bad. The engine ran great. It's a 4.6. It wasn't knocking or clicking or ticking. And also the underside was completely rust-free and almost looked factory, which is pretty wild, seeing how I believe the D2s suffer from more frame-related rust issues than even D1s. So that's always the reason why they've never been in my goals of ownership for different Land Rovers. I've always liked them, but all the ones I've come across, at least in the Northeast, have just been absolute throwaway cars. But unfortunately, even with the lack of paint, those 2 factors made it the reason, or one of the reasons why I hate that I'm still in a relationship with this vehicle. All right. So another reason why I'm really starting to hate this thing is, again, I've always shied away from the D2 platform with these Thor engines just because of the horror stories that I've heard and experienced personally. But this one's okay. And as I kind of got to know it, I realized it wasn't as hard to do certain things on it as I was expecting. I've done the belt, I've done a water pump, I've flushed the coolant, I've replaced some hoses, and a lot of the D2 nickels, yeah, they're not really turning out to be as bad as I was thinking. Oh, I also did the fan clutch, and it all took really not that long. So why Troy then is the hate there? Well, I think that about sums it up. I hate the fact that I have chosen a vehicle that I was shying away from. I have come to really enjoy it and now fully accepted it into the realm of I have to fix everything on it. So, so far, again, like I said, I've done a lot of the cooling system bits. I've ordered some brake pads and rotors. I've realized that I need to do the shocks. So this has become the kind of cheap throw around, potentially dailyable alternative to driving the D1 or the Classic. And I'm throwing the kitchen sink at it, which in my world takes time, money, and starts a whole new journey down the ruinously financial path of how do I make my Land Rover drive better. They never get there, I don't think. Now, again, I kind of hate that I am, in this position to own 4 of very similar platform vehicles. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but in my reptile brain, it does make a good bit of sense because this is the perfect medium, right? Medium well option for the Land Rover, right? So this has a 4.6. It's at 177,000 miles. It has good AC. It's not lifted, and it really does make a great around the town car. It's got plenty of space. It's got plenty of power. The brakes are nicely assisted. After I get the shocks done, I think this thing will ride very decently. The radio sounds okay. And I'm really just unfortunately enjoying driving it as a car, not so much as an off-road vessel, which I have brought to the cottage or the cabin a few times, driven the roads, some of the trails, and it's done those duties as well. It is functioning very well, unfortunately, as car. And these are the traps that I end up falling into. And again, I'm trying to resist the urge to modify and upgrade these things. I'm trying just to leave it stock, leave it standard. If it's not broke, it won't fix it. But it's just impossible. And I think the fact that I'm so fired up about it is the fact that I know and I'm able to do the majority of the diag and work myself. The problem with knowing how to do certain things is you then feel empowered to do them. And to do them costs money, time, effort, and causes a little bit of mental instability when things don't work out. So again, kind of like the L322 and the LR3 is understanding the vehicle and understanding what it needs is the first step in starting to hate it, because then you start realizing and noting all the little things that could make it better. And is it worth making it better? That's another problem. I've never wanted to fix the paint more than I have, and that's another reason why I hate this thing. I want to make this look good. I love this gold bronze paint. I'd love it to be more gold and bronze and not this sheen of horribly faded paint, but my motto is if you paint and make Rovers pretty, then they die. So I'm kind of condemning myself in this vehicle to a fate of mechanical failure if I can choose to endeavor on this little restoration mission. But I kind of feel like it's worth it. I could be devoting these time and resources to more interesting projects. There's manual sports cars and old MGBs potentially, or maybe even a Defender, conserving those resources. But no, I'm standing here pumping time, resources, and money into an old 04 D2 with the bad headlights and skinny tires, and it looks like it's probably lowered. It even has running boards. I'm going to keep those. Yeah, I want to keep the running board. I like this thing so much that I spent an hour and a half the other day unclogging various sunroof and AC drains so it didn't smell like funk on the inside due to those clogging up. I also spent about 2 days doing research online to figure out why and where all those drains were and why JLR decided to put a little filter plug in the AC drain under the carpet that gets everything all wet and then starts mold and mildew. So that's it. The hate is palpable. All right, so let's fire it up. It's another thing that really bothers me. There's no dash lights on this thing. I really wish that the dash would give me some Three Amigo problems so I would have a good excuse to just let it on fire. All right, so when I purchased this truck, it really didn't need anything. And it took me a very long time to break down and start throwing parts at it, because it took me a second to realize that it really did need everything. When I say everything, I mean the big 3 that I mentioned on the podcast. Water pump, fan clutch, belts / cooling, let's go rubber bits, cooling hose, and thermostat. So yeah, sorry, water pump, belt, thermostat, fan clutch. It's water pump, T-stat, fan clutch. Let's call it that. Those are the big 3s of ensuring your Rover doesn't overheat. It's just running hotter than it should. It's running 203 to 212 on the highway. Like I always say, do a thermostat, flush the radiator, do a clutch fan, all that fun stuff. And I held off doing it for too long until I found the water pump was leaking. So I've replaced the water pump now with a flow cooler unit. I didn't really videotape any of that work because I've kind of done that before. So there's your new flow cooler water pump. I discovered that the truck probably needed a new serpentine belt, so I put that in. I also messed up this squid, if you want to call it, squid line coolant hose bit, so that's all new now. So, you know, something that was as simple as replacing, putting 180th degree thermostat in has now kind of snowballed into a full scope of a bit of an engine tune-up refresh on the cooling system. So everyone ends up there eventually. I just did a little bit prematurely, but the truck's been down for a while, so I'm gonna button it all back up and see what I'm running on a trip to the cabin this afternoon, temp-wise, after we get everything kind of bled and put back together. But fun times. So here's the difference, kids. Running 185 on the highway, slightly different climate, right? It's only I don't know, 70 degrees opposed to 80 degrees, but I am running the AC and we're at 185. And now if you're looking, if you can see that temp gauge, that ultra gauge reading 177. And that's where, between that and 190 is where I am temperature-wise around town. Now those three items really brought the temp down from about 203. So those items really brought the temps down from around 203 to 204 around town to beautiful 185, 190. And now that was achieved by the water pump and the 180 degree thermostat. The final bit in what I've done recently is replace the fan clutch, just because it took me a second to get one in stock. Now, the fan clutch was not affecting my around town temperatures. This is where it gets real nerdy, but it will affect your temperatures at speed on the highway, pushing that air through the engine and ensuring that you're not getting creeping temperatures. You know, another factor or thing I kind of realized after driving around a bit is I wasn't hearing that fan clutch, that whooshing airplane jet noise. Front of the engine that you get on startup and on warm days when things are heating up and that fan clutch locks up. You know, you don't hear engine noise, you just kind of hear that whirring whoosh of that fan clutch. And when it is engaged, you can hear it. It doesn't sound great, but what it is it's keeping that engine cool. So that was the final piece of the puzzle to make this truck reliable and able to be driven by myself and my wife in the summer with the AC on and the kids without really worrying about overheating, because I don't want to slip any liners in this 4.6. But again, I think now that I've got that serviced and sorted, I'm gonna have to keep going. Now, I always tell people the most expensive thing you can do is keep a vehicle that you like, especially if you have other vehicles to play with, and that is where I'm at with this project. This $3,000 budget Land Rover build project that I said was gonna be for my wife obviously is now turning into a bit more than that. And most of it is just basic maintenance. That's the other issue with a lot of the work that I'm doing. I'm just getting to par, I'm getting into net neutral. They're not really improvements that I'm adding to the vehicle. I'm just getting it back to factory specifications so it's able to be used, which again is not a very high bar for kind of comfort, reliability, and enjoyment from an enthusiast standpoint, especially if I don't have big intentions to do any major off-roading. But what the idea would be is to make this capable enough to use for road trips and family things that might get into a little trail or something like that without having to worry too much, which is the exact same purpose as my L322 supercharged, which probably does it better, but is maybe a little less interesting. Both this and the supercharged both have 177,000 miles on them. So they're both high mileage Land Rover Heroes, and who knows how much life they have left in it. You know, I'm not one to poo-poo high miles, but you know, so far it drives very well and it's comfortable and it gets okay gas mileage because it's not lifted. And you know, I'm just gonna have to keep dumping money into it. And that's the unfortunate truth when you get into ownership of these type of things. So if that's being said, and if I haven't scared you away from this platform yet, please go out and buy one. Make a mistake, get a little dirty, just make sure it doesn't have incredible amounts of rust. I've stayed away again from the D2 platform for a very long and I've unfortunately fallen into the trap, and here we are. So I wish you luck. Thanks for watching. Thanks for, please subscribe, check out the podcast, and we'll check you out on the next video. See ya.